Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you how I put together this cute little Arctic animal winter cake. And if you do just want to see the animals, skip about 4 minutes in, 4 minutes and a half maybe, and you can just see the animals. Alright, for my cake, I have an 8-inch cake here and I just covered it in some nice bright white icing. That's all I did. I just covered it up. I tried to make it as nice and neat as possible. And then I stuck it in the fridge for a little bit to let it set up because my cake was kind of soft and crumbly and it was making a mess on me. Now that I took it out of the fridge and it's nice and solid, I'm going to put now the rough coating on it, I'm going to call it. I was just trying to make it look, I don't know, fluffy, messy, kind of like snow. I wasn't going for the nice clean look. So as you can see, I'm just taking blobs of icing onto my spatula and patting all over it. So I smear some on and then I pat, 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 and it makes it have just this wild, prickly kind of effect, just a fluffy mess of a cake that I thought was kind of fun. So, just what I did. Now I've got an assortment of little snowflake sparkles and sprinkles and things, and I am putting them on my cake, kind of making an arch. It's hard to see, but it goes down, it starts at the bottom on one side and goes up and over and then down onto the other side as well. I had a couple little, or little, not so little, big snowflakes there. These are just sugar snowflakes that I had ordered from somewhere. I forget, honestly, at this point. But I'm just sticking a few of them here and there. I stuck a couple on the top just so it has a little more three-dimensional kind of a feel to it. And then I felt like I couldn't really see the decorations I put on, so I'm adding some big edible silver beads just to kind of make it stand out, give it a little more color, a little more noticeable of a sparkle. And that's it, so I'll show you the animals next. I am going to be putting these guys on top of an 8-inch cake, so I've got my 8-inch pan there, and I happen to have that little metal bowl, which I thought was going to be a good size for the igloo. I'm making an igloo just because it makes it a little more fun, makes it a little more interesting. So I've got my little bowl that I think is a good size. I put a piece of paper towel over the top of it, so now when I'm rolling out my fondant or gum paste, and you could use either one for this. If you use fondant, just add some CMC powder or Tyler's powder to it to make it set up. Otherwise, use some gum paste. I'm going to be using gum paste, so you're going to hear me say gum paste a lot. I took some white, as you saw, rolled it out so it was still pretty darn thick, and then just spread it down and over top of my bowl. I'm using my veining tool there, and I'm just holding my hand, in one spot on the counter and then turning the bowl to create some horizontal lines that go around my igloo. And I'm going all the way around, and I'm not too worried about it being perfect because I want it to be a little bit more rustic looking. If you're going for perfection, then, do the best you can to hold it really, really still. Once I have my horizontal lines in place, I'm going to make it the bricks by adding some vertical lines. I spaced them out, as you can see, just kind of here and there around the top ring. And then I'm going to skip the middle ring and go right to the bottom ring where I'm going to line them up again so that my bricks are kind of stacked alternating with each other. How you typically would imagine it if you were to draw a picture of it or something like that. So once my bottom lines are in place, go back to my middle section there, and I'm putting a vertical line in between the lines above and below it. So there you go. Nice little igloo, right? Not too sharp, not too hard, not too shabby. Yeah, so good. So far, so good. And because it is hollow, once it hardens, it's going to be lightweight, so it won't be very heavy either. I'm making the entrance to the igloo now, so I just took another thick piece, rolled it out, as you can see. I'm trimming it off to make it more into a rectangle because it just was a little too fat, a little too thick and everything. So yeah, once I have a nice amount, I'm not going to worry right now about connecting it because once I put it on the cake, I'm going to, put like a little bit of icing on top of the igloo and on top of the entryway, I guess I'm going to call it. So it will cover up any seams or anything between the igloo and the entranceway. So I'm using my little mini rolling pin there to hold the shape, the nice curve of it. Just like before, adding some horizontal lines, doing my vertical ones, alternating to make little bricks. Of course, they're a lot smaller, so they're closer together. I'm rolling out another piece of gum paste here, or fondant, like I said, and then I'm going to flatten it so it's kind of thick and a little bit wider, compared to the rest of the entranceway. I'm going to, as you saw, I cut off the one end and I'm wrapping it around the front, cut off the other side too, so you have a good measurement. It was a little too long, so I just took another nip. And now when I have it connected to the front, I'm going to make that be like an archway, I guess, a doorway. So I'm using the back of my knife to make little indentations on the top. So I'm kind of pressing down as well because it was sticking out pretty far above the rest of the entranceway. So I pressed it down a bit. I'm making lines, so now it looks kind of like brickwork, like a little domed entrance. Now I slide it off there and put it to the side. I'm adding some edible shimmer here. I've got some white shimmer and I've got some kind of like a navy blue shimmer, but it's pretty dark. So I'm adding just a touch of the blue to the white. I'm going to mix it together to kind of tame it out to create more of a light blue shimmer. And I'm going to add this to the Igloo. It's very white, and if you put this on a cake that's all white, it's going to be white on top of white on top of white, which if that's what you want, that's fine. I wanted to break it up a little bit. So I added a little bit of water now to my shimmer. Got my paintbrush there. It's just a flat edge angled paintbrush. And I'm going in between along the seams that I made. So all the little seams that I made, I'm adding some of this color to it. I went around and did the whole thing. I did all the cracks. It was kind of boring, so I cut it out. And now I'm going back over it again with just a little bit of water. And I'm taking all of the color that are in the cracks and I'm blending it. So now I'm starting to blend it around the edge of all the bricks. I'm leaving the centers white, but I am kind of going into the corners and around the edges. And this is going to give the bricks a little bit more dimension, a little bit more character, gives it a little bit more color. It just looks pretty. I think it looks pretty. So again, if you want to keep it all white, you don't have to do it. You could do it way less. Do it in a different color if you wanted to. And it just gives it a little bit of color and makes it kind of pretty, I think. So I'm doing the same exact thing there to my little entranceway. Just going over the cracks, kind of blending it. Got a little bored with it, so I just started painting over everything. Sometimes I lose my patience. And yeah, I had to reshape it a bit because it hadn't set up quite yet. There we go. All right. Now we're going to get started with our animals. This is white gum paste once again, and I'm going to show you the seal first. So I have kind of a bean shape there. And between my fingers, I am rolling out a little section for his head. Now the other end, I'm going to taper and kind of make him like, are those a plum weight, you know, how the old metal plum weights would just hang and they had the knob with like the point at the bottom. That's what I'm doing. So I bent the end up. I used my knife to cut a little slit in the back, and then I'm pinching it between my fingers, so now he has his back flippers. This is just a ball of some more gum paste. Cut it in half so it's roughly the same size, and I'm going to shape it into kind of a teardrop shape, a little looser than a teardrop, but kind of a teardrop, and sort of bent up at the fatter end. I added a couple little impressions to make it look like little flipper finger things, because they're actually like webbed feet more than actual fish fins. And I had to cut a little bit off of it because they were too big, and then using water, just press it up under the body. And again, adding some more little fin details, little pressure marks into the back fin as well. And I added a little ball of gum paste right onto the front for his snoot, or his muzzle, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it snoot because I just think it's fun to say. And then I rolled another piece of gum paste between my fingers so it's tapered at either end, and a little thicker in the middle, cut off that extra in the middle, and now he's got a little tuft of hair. And I gotta admit, I did add the little tuft of hair because there was like this little crack in the middle of his head, and I didn't feel like starting it all over, so I put a little piece of hair on him. I gave him a little black ball of gum paste for his nose, a little bit of water to attach everything, and I'm using an edible food coloring marker now to draw a mouth. I'm giving him, the typical kind of cat mouth with the line down the center and then the two hooks at either side, and two little closed eyes on either side, and he's just a happy, smiling little baby seal. And it doesn't take much, and he's super cute, right? Like, he's very adorable. I like him. Now I have some light gray here, and this is going to become my baby penguin. And I'm doing basically the same thing, except he's flat on the bottom, where my seal was more like a plumb bob at the bottom. He's flat at the bottom, but I did separate a little section off again for his head. I'm using that lollipop stick just to kind of help separate it out a little more cleanly. And yeah, now you have just kind of a, I don't know, A little person. Remember the Fisher Price, I think, made the little tykes or little people, the little wooden figures that came with the doll houses and stuff. It looks like one of those to me. All right, so I got a piece of white gum paste that I rolled out nice and flat, cut out a circle, use my little star shape there to cut a little wedge out the top, and that's going to be his face. And that's a nice, easy little shortcut, is just make a circle, cut a little triangle wedge out the top, and you've got a penguin face, you've got an owl face, you've got all kinds of animal faces that way. There's another circle there that I pulled a little bit oblong, so it's more oval up and down for his belly. And there you go. He's coming along already. Okay, this is going to become his flippers. So I rolled out the gum paste a little bit thick, and I cut 2 circles out, so now I know his flippers will be the same size, and I'm shaping them into little teardrops, this time much more pointed than the seal's, because, again, he's much more pointy than the seal. So, yes, just making sure that it's pointy at the bottom, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve when I put them on. I had to flatten them out a little bit because they were still too thick, but a little bit of water at the top where it's the fattest, and you stick it on the body, and it will curve out a little bit naturally, but I wanted to give him a little bit more of a curve because it's cute. There you go. See? Already. He does kind of look like a baby owl chick, though. I gotta say that, too. An owlet. Little piece of light yellow for his beak, and again, 2 little circles I cut out for his feet. I'm sticking with very light colors here because I don't want... It's a very light cake, with it being mostly just white and a very light blue and very light gray. You don't want like a bright orange beak and feet on this guy. You want to keep it all nice and muted. Again, with the food coloring marker, just drawing a couple little eyes on there. And my little penguin is done. Oh, I did put little feet indentations too. Sorry, I kind of forgot to mention that. All right, now this is some more gray. I added more white to it to make it even lighter. And this is going to become my fox. I just did an oval that I cut kind of in half. That's going to be his body. This oval that I'm pinching into more of a football kind of shape is going to be his head. Now I made another kind of a football shape there, and those are going to be his ears. I cut them in half right down the middle. And I'm sticking 2 little pieces of dried spaghetti in his head in order to anchor them. I do not use toothpicks or wires because kids will take stuff and take a bite. No one gets hurt on my stuff, not on my watch. So I plug those little triangle ears into the grooves that are on either side, right on top of the spaghetti, a little bit of water. Doing good so far. Okay, here's another little piece of spaghetti going into the body, and that's where the head's going to sit. The head is so big that it needs a little bit of support. It might just kind of tip or sag as it's drying otherwise. So this big long teardrop I made is going to be his tail. And I like it. I like how it looks, but I wanted to change it a little, so I cut the end of the tail off and then replaced it with a little plug of white with the same idea. I had the teardrop shape. I have flattened off the white part, a little bit of water in between, and connected the 2, and I thought it made him a little cuter, a little more interesting looking, a little more foxy. Even though Arctic foxes are technically all white, I did want a little bit of a color variation in him. I cut out 2 little teeny tiny triangles for the inside of his ears. Nothing really special there, like that. And now I'm going to show you what I did for his face. I have that piece of white, the kind of bean shaped, and I pressed down the sides, the 2 sides, and left it pointy in the middle. And I'm trying to really maintain that point in the middle. So now he's got like a flatter part on either side. It points out in the middle, and now he's got his little face and muzzle. So it's not hard to do. Now his nose needs a little bit of a black dot right on the end of it, just like that. And keep it cute, keep it small. I'm making 2 impressions with the back of my paintbrush there to make little holes for his eyes. And I'm not going crazy with the eyes. They're just going to be a couple little black balls of gum paste again that I'm just going to set right inside of those divots I made. And a little bit of water is just keeping everything in place. And there you go. He's done. And he's cute. Like sometimes I make decorations and they're so cute I don't want to give them away. I'm like, oh, they should just sit on my shelf. All right, last but not least, here we've got our polar bear. Another big white plug, and this time I'm not actually separating out a section for the head. I'm just kind of pressing in. So my polar bear is going to be all kind of one big stocky piece with a big belly. That's the idea I'm going with here. I got 2 little balls there, are going to be his ears. So you press into the center and then down against the head. So you press into the middle of the ball and then just press it down against the head, and it makes the ears stick and set up very nicely. That little flat circle of white gum paste is going to be his little belly patch, and I don't know if it's redundant or pointless to put a white belly patch on a white bear, but you can see it, and I don't know, it sticks out, it makes it look cute. Another little white ball pressed onto his face for his muzzle, and 2 more white circles here that are a little thicker are going to become his paws, his top paws. I have them kind of oblong again, gave him little indentations for little fingers, I guess you could call them. And I'm just kind of putting them so they're overlapping his belly a little bit and kind of off to the side of his shoulder. I'm doing 2 more little round circles there for his bottom paws. And now I'm using a little swizzle stick, a little swizzle straw, to make 3 circles at the top for his toes. And then I'm going to switch it out with a bigger coffee stirring straw to make the pad of his feet. So now he's got like little pads of his feet that are showing at the bottom. And anytime I go places that I see straws, I usually grab 1 or 2 because you never know. They're all slightly different sizes. So you can always get good help out of different straws. Again, a couple little holes to put his eyes in. Just a couple more little black balls of gum paste to go into his eyes. I made a little black piece of gum paste and for his nose, and I'm kind of shaping it more into a triangle. You can kind of see there. So now he's got a little more of a dog-shaped nose there. And last but not least, make him happy. There you go. Now he's a happy, chubby little polar bear sitting with all his little animal friends. So now I'm going to take all my stuff and put it on my cake. And so there goes my Igloo. Like I said before in the video, I wasn't too worried about it not being even on the bottom because I'll just, squish it down into the icing. Put my little fox on top just because he's cute. A little bit of placement rearrangement happened that I kind of tried to edit out a little bit. But anyway, I just stuck the animals on wherever I thought they would fit the best. And you put it all together and you have a super cute little Arctic animal winter themed cake. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because it really does help me out as well. I've got a lot of other videos out there, so please take a look. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.